Geocaching-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Well, welcome to GeoGearHeads. Can you believe we are at episode 264? That's a lot of episodes. This one, we're talking about geocaching in education, and we are privileged to have a special guest with us, Doc Firewoman. But before we get to her, we need to introduce you in case you're new. Maybe you haven't watched or listened to this podcast before, but the host extraordinaire of this podcast is Daryl W4.
Host extraordinaire. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but thanks, Chris.
You stand out in your field.
I don't stand. I don't have a field to stand out in.
Oh.
Don't make farm jokes while I'm drinking.
Wait, what does your shirt say?
Farmer.
No, Daryl, what does your shirt say? Visit.
Oh, mine says
visit outside.
Outside where real stuff happens.
I could just see the out, and I thought, does it say outstanding? No. Maybe that's where I saw it. Subliminally, I read outstanding. He's standing outside. That's outstanding.
No, I'm sitting inside because we have to do the show right now.
Oh, yeah. And for me, outside is very dark. We have a lot of dark this time of year, so outside doesn't work for a show like this.
It's been dark for like 3 hours, which is good sometimes, but not right now.
It's about the same here.
In any case, we should introduce our guest who does have a field to stand in, but right now, and that's Doc Firewoman.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, and thanks for coming back. Before we get into tonight's topic, which we're interested in because we have no idea what you're really talking about. And
you're assuming that I do. Okay, great.
You have a better idea than we do, and you can fake it better than we could.
This is going to be a great show.
I'll do my best.
It's a Greek show?
It's a Greek show.
Oh, interesting. So we're going to have a debt crisis.
And I will show you the root of that word in the Greek.
Oh, see, and I thought we were talking about debts. In any case.
Oh, well, they have a lot of that, too.
I thought you were talking about the Greek symbols we use in physics, so.
See, we could go everywhere with that topic. We might have to do a Greek show at some point. Who knows?
Great puzzle cache information.
All Greek to me. Yep. It's all Greek to me. That's what you call it that.
We have so many great shows scheduled, Chris. I'm sure you've been looking at it.
Oh, yes.
But we're into mid-March now, and I still have more shows to book. So we'll start sharing those before too long. But some good information coming your way.
Wunderbar.
We did do the special episode early in the week. Hopefully people caught that about the new promotion from or new partnership with geocaching.com and the author of the children's picture book. That looks pretty cool. Did you check that out at all, Chris?
I did. The Cache M.
Yeah, that's a character.
Trackable.
It was now I forget what the name is of the book. But the book itself looked like it was going to be pretty cool as well. And I just kind of like the whole idea, and the pictures tie into the book well, so it's a great combination.
Yes,
Isn't it called Treasure Seekers or something like that?
No, I don't think that's the right name for the book. It was like Big Smiles or something like that. But I think
Smiles, I know, is the theme they're pushing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's just like the theme.
Oh, interesting. It took me here.
Yeah, and of course I closed that window, so.
I was just going to it.
Well, while you do that, check that out. Unfortunately, it is U.S. only again. So I'm going to put out a little plug right now. For all of you folks who are not in the U.S., make sure to hound the companies that are in your areas. Like, if you're in Canada, start hounding Canadian Tire and Tim Hortons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and see if they won't do something. I you know what? I really want like IKEA, a nice international company to do something like that.
There you go.
I don't think they would, But we got to find one who's international like that. But even like Garmin had done, Garmin Europe had done a European only thing outside of the promos. But that's the problem, is that these are promos that the companies sponsor and the companies do it. So wherever the companies are, that's where it's going to be. So we need more international ones.
Exactly. That's the key, is the companies are targeting a particular country or group of countries. So it's not that geocaching.com is blocking these things from going into Canada. It's the companies themselves. Daryl, I looked at the website. The book is called Dream Big.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's
there
right.
We go.
Yeah. So you can, well, I can't see the website. I think it's geocaching.com/dreambig.
I think you're right. So yeah, we'll have that on the website in the 3. Yes. Okay. See, it is going to be one of those shows.
See, that is so easy for you to say.
263.6. There we go. Okay. So you can check all the information out there. We did that special.
Go ahead.
Oh, we did that special so that everyone could get the information the day that it was released.
That was cool. That's where I got the information from.
Yeah, and they actually beat us to the punch on getting it out, which doesn't surprise me. But when I was recording with her, the website still wasn't ready. They had to fix one glitch in the formatting. So They were waiting to release it. And of course, by the time we finished the recording, they had finished it. So I got the approval to send it out. And of course, they got it out quicker because they didn't have to edit, compress, and write the notes. But I had no information other than, hey, we want to do a recording for a new partnership that's going to launch today. Well, nice. I had it like a week before, but yeah, not much information. So that was kind of fun to do something like that blind.
Nice. So I just put the link there in the show notes, geocaching.com/dream.
In the chat room, yeah.
Chat room. Sorry.
No worries.
Threw me off. I'm still not used to the chat room over Q&A and
yeah, I know it's so confusing.
The other thing.
But I should also mention that Shermanator 18 and Renee W25 both won the Urban Adventures photo contest. I don't know
cool.
I think it was 20 or 25. I don't know all the others who won.
That seems right.
Yeah, but I was one of them, so I'm excited because I got picked again twice in a row. The what was the last one? The tin cup. I got the tin cup rucksack for one of the photos, and I got the gift certificate for the Urban Adventures on this one.
So what's your secret, Daryl? Who are you bribing to win
putting them up? But you know what? I was really disappointed. None of the donut photos won on the Urban Adventures.
Really?
I had cool donut photos, and they didn't win. So I guess it just proves that not everyone likes donuts.
Whoa. Back up. Take that back.
Wrong on so many levels.
I know. But how else could you explain it?
Well, it's New Year's resolutions, and it made them want to go off their diet. And
no,
so
I didn't think about that. It's the backlash against the donut.
Yes.
Because donuts are too good.
They're anti-donite.
Right. Oh, see, I hadn't thought about that. And they are Australian. The judges were Australian. I don't know that Australians are that into it.
Oh.
Well, they're donuts are upside down. Frosting's on the bottom.
Nice. All right, well, let's get into the actual content of the show this week. And why don't you start telling us a little bit about what it is that you do and how you've gotten into the geocaching and education thing.
Okay, well, I was able to move back home to Arkansas in 2005 because I got a professorship at the University of Central Arkansas. And I've always been very focused on doing educational outreach in schools. And, I do astronomy, so that's cool stuff. And the kids think it's interesting. And so teachers would always ask me to come and do, maybe a classroom visit or something. Well, I started working with the school system that I actually grew up in. One of the science teachers got very interested in more than just a class visit, doing more lengthy projects and trying to have like a cohesive theme that might last a month. And then it kind of grew into a semester, and then it's grown into a year-long project.
Wow.
Well, yeah, so it's really neat because the kids, we meet with them once a week. I usually go either once a week or once every 2 weeks, but we meet with them once a week. We work with the gifted and talented kids, so we pull them out of their classroom once a week, and we have these themed projects. And it all started with a theme project with a geocaching project. And I had just started geocaching, and I thought, wow, this is a really neat vehicle for kids to get outside and move around, get out from in front of the television set or the computer games or whatever, which I'm not necessarily anti-computer game, but you do need to get outside and get in the sunshine a little bit. Also a way for them to learn a little interesting history about their town. The town that I live in is very economically depressed. I'm in a pretty rural area. Obviously, with my shirt, you can tell I'm in a pretty rural area, but it's also very economically depressed. We lost our main, sorry, that's my dog. We lost our main industry, and people who had graduated high school with me, who had worked at this plant for 20 years, now are without jobs, and their kids saw this happen. There was really not a lot of opportunity, but there were some really interesting things about the history of the town that I thought, well, maybe that will give them something to be proud of. So I talked it over with the teacher, and I said, hey, I've got this really idea, but go with me here and see where I'm headed. And that's kind of how it started. And that first project has spun off into so many really wonderful opportunities for me to work with teachers, both at the college level and the K-12 level. And it's also caused the kids in that first group, who now are graduating, this is their senior year, they are, some of them still geocache. They're still really interested. I see them at, some of them work at the grocery store or at the local Sonic or whatever. They say, oh, I love that. That was such a neat project. And they remember that. And it kind of gives them a little more out of place, I guess. But that's kind of how I got started.
That is really cool.
My dog's trying to excavate the door. Sorry.
People are trying to break down your door to listen to you talk about geocaching and education.
I know.
Okay, well,
Willie wants to know. Yeah, Willie wants to know what's going on. Yes.
So you started, and now these students are seniors, and you're saying several of them are still into it, or at least they have that knowledge of it, if nothing else, right? Right.
And, community here is, how can I put this politely? It's starting to get some age to it. And so there's not a lot of new geocaches being hidden.
It's historic.
Classic,
yes.
Vintage, however you want to say it. But we're starting to see some new blood come in. But in our local area, there's not a lot of new geocaches being hidden. But year, that project was 7 years ago. And that's why this year we're doing a new geocaching theme project. And this will be about the fourth one that's been either geocaching directly or location based, like GPS based. And this is our 7th project. And I'm going to toot my own horn. This is the 7th year in a row we've won the statewide curriculum award for these projects.
Well, that is impressive.
Every year for schools of 1,000 students or less, which is actually most of the schools in the state are 1,000 students or less. We've won every year. And the nice thing is it brings some money into the program that we can then use to keep it going, which is nice.
Love it.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of the kids are still actively caching. And, as like I said, they're getting ready to graduate this year. They're all seniors now. And The other thing that I like about it is a lot of the young women are interested in the technology and the science side, because those original lessons were cross-curricular. Ended up picking out 4 locations in town to focus on. And so what we did is, for each one of them, I wrote a history lesson, a sort of economic / society impact lesson, and then a science lesson to go with each one of them. And a lot of the young girls got interested in the science side of it. And so now they're going to go to college in some area of science. So that makes me as a physicist really happy. So
yeah, that is really exciting.
Now, are those lessons outside of the cache listing page, or are they on?
Yes and no. It was kind of a twofold attack that we had. I taught the kids, like, for example, we used to be the home of Atkins Pickle Company. We're in Atkins, Arkansas, and years ago, the town raised money after World War II to build the pickle plant. And it was here until 2001. It closed in 2001. But what we did with that was we talked about that history, about why did the town need an economic revitalization after the war? What impact has it had monetarily on the town? And then I did a science lesson on why do you pickle food? Why do you even do this to begin with? What's the advantage of it? What's the chemical process of it? And the really cool thing is we went to a website called Exploratorium, and they have an interactive little lab on there where you can pickle things, and you put in a certain amount of your acid, which is your vinegar, and a certain amount of salt and a certain amount of heat. And then you see if you make pickles or you end up going to the hospital because you have botulism. But the really cool thing is they put up these random facts. And the day that we pulled that up, the fact on this international website with a big banner that says, in the city of Atkins, Arkansas, every year there is the Pickle Fest, which celebrates the town's economy being centered around the Atkins Pickle Company. I couldn't have asked for a more perfect for these kids to go, look, we're on the internet. We're on the internet. So,
that is cool.
So we did that, but then the kids, as they researched it, what they did was on the geocache description, they gave you some history about the town, okay, and why that site was important. And we had some students who were really good at writing poems, so the hints were all in poem form. And then when you actually found the geocache, they were all regular sized geocaches. I had one young woman who was a really good artist, and she drew pictures, and we blew them up, we printed them on cardstock, and we laminated them. And on the back was a fact about the town, like a series of facts, maybe 5 or 6. And we made 100 of those and put them in the caches so that you could collect one from the 4 caches and have all 4 of them and get something to take away to learn about the town.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was really cool. The kids loved all of that. We went to the different locations to pick out the spot to hide them. And of course we had to talk about the rules and why you'd want to hide it there. We talked about how to use a GPS. We did some geocaching around our town and went to some of the areas, that they never knew anything about. There's a Butterfield stagecoach came through here, and there was an old hotel, and there was all this stuff. And then where the town began, we went down there, which was about 8 miles from where a town is now, because the river used to be the interstate, and then the railroad came through, and that was the interstate, and then the interstate came through, and so we talked about why town was steadily moving northward. It gave me a lot of opportunity to introduce a lot of cross-disciplinary education in that one project. And it was really, I really think back on it now, and it just came together so well, and the kids had a ball, and we had a ball, and it was a lot of fun. So
fantastic. Now, are those caches still in place, or have you replaced them, updated them with?
We kept them going. We kept them going for about 5 years. We got rid of after some major flooding. It was hidden close to Gala Creek, and Gala Creek got up and washed away the cache. So that one was the first one to go. And then Atkins one was the second one to go because for the same reason, there was some flooding. But we let them run for about 5 years, and they, you know how it is when you put a cache out. There's this group of people that's going to come find it, and then it might get hit once every few months or once a year or something like that. So we deactivated them. I actually deactivated them about 6 months ago. That this year we're going to do new ones.
Cool. Now, and just to remind everyone, this is the one that was 7 years ago. So back in 2010?
Yes, 2010. Yep. And then the next year we decided we would do some earth caches. Well, Deborah didn't really understand the effort required to get an earth cache published. So what we did was let's look at some interesting geological features in our state, because I'm a big geology nerd in addition to being an astronomy nerd. And we have a really interesting geology in the state of Arkansas because of where we're located. We were basically what used to be the Gulf of Mexico in prehistoric times, and then the lower half of the state was where the continental shelf ended and dropped off. During continental drift, a plate hit us and took care of that original deep area and created a series of mountains that are the only east-west mountains, I believe, in the United States. When we have those here in Arkansas, we also have the highest elevation change between the Canadian border and the Gulf of Mexico for several tens of, or maybe a few hundred miles in either direction in Mount Magazine. Yeah, in Mount Magazine. Yeah, so it's like a little island, and there's some very unique species on that mountain, and they exist nowhere else in the world.
See, so, I grew up in Ohio. Daryl's in Michigan, and so I consider, from that point east to have mountains, but nothing having mountains until west in you hit the Rockies.
Right. Well, we have the Ozarks, and the Ozarks are not.
Yeah, you're right.
Huge mountains. I mean, because they're a lot older. I mean, they're a lot older than the Rockies, and they weren't as tall initially either. But we do have the Ozarks. But actually, the tallest point in the state is Mount Magazine, and it's in a location called the River Valley, because it's not really a mountain. It's what's left of the ancient seafloor after the Arkansas River and its tributaries wore the seafloor away. Magazine is a syncline, or I think it's a syncline is what it's called, and it's a flat top mountain. So it's really conducive to animals and birds and plants living on the top of it. And the elevation difference, I believe, is 2,700 feet from the valley floor, or maybe it's a little more than that, a little less than that. But because of that flatness and because of the elevation change, it's not the highest point, but it's the biggest elevation change. There's some really interesting bird species that you can see up there, and it's on a major migration flyway, so it's really cool. And the kids had no idea. They had no idea. They go up there, because it's close enough to us that they can go up there, and they go up there and they don't realize that saw fly over that you thought was a big buzzard was the first Arkansas sighting of a golden eagle, or that newt that you saw, or that salamander that you saw, exists nowhere else in the world except on top of this mountain.
Wow.
So that, we have several places like that in the state. And so maybe not quite that extreme, but we have a lot of interest. And we have Crater of Diamonds. Crater of Diamonds is another interesting place because it's the only place, it's the only public diamond mine, I think, in the world. I know in the United States, it's the only public diamond mine because we had an ancient volcano here. And what the park is you go out into the old caldera of the volcano and you dig, and whatever you find, you get to keep.
So this is actually like a state park or something?
Yeah, it's called Crater of Diamonds State Park.
And it's the public mine concept.
To pay for, I think it used to be $3 to get in, and you could sit there all day long and dig, and whatever you found, you get to keep. And because of the geology, you can find things like amethysts and topazes and, different things like that. Not just diamonds, but the diamonds from there are actually carat for carat more valuable from conflict regions. So
Really?
people were smuggling diamonds in because you get a certificate when you find one. There were people caught smuggling diamonds in, saying they had found them, the certificates, because those diamonds were more expensive than diamonds from conflict regions.
How bizarre.
Isn't that strange?
There are multiple diamonds found that are 1 carat or larger down there. I think just like 2 weeks ago, somebody found a 3.5 carat or a 4 carat diamond.
Wow.
Daryl, I know where I'm spending my next vacation.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Let's go to Arkansas and dig for diamonds. When is the last time you've ever said that?
The problem is these earth caches weren't actually listed, so we can't do the earth cache there.
Earth cache there. We didn't write it because I got kind of in over my head, and I was still a baby geocacher at that point. But there are earth caches there now. We have a gentleman in the state who is a friend of mine. He lives locally, and he works at the local nuclear power plant. So we talk physics all the time, and he's published most of the earth caches in the state. And I think that's his down there. I forget, but yeah, it was great. And actually Arkansas Geocachers Association's spring event last year was at Crater of Diamonds, and everybody went in and got to dig for diamonds.
Okay. Have you found a diamond?
Not.
Oh.
But I have found some carnelian and some olivine and some some amethysts. I found some amethysts. Okay. So I'm still holding out for the diamond, though.
I think we know where land monkeys are going to be vacationing pretty soon too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a unique place for sure.
I wonder if they can take that back across the border, though.
Oh, I'm sure they can. Why not? If they've got their certificate, why not?
Yeah. They might get busted for smuggling something. I would think that they'd get busted going back to Canada. It would be coming into the U.S., so they're probably good.
Well, I always heard if you hide stuff in your dirty underwear, nobody will look for it there. So maybe that's what they did.
Top travel tip from Deborah.
But that was, we did that project, and I've been lucky enough to have some of my college students be able to work on that, because we have a program at UCA called the U-Teach program, which is now we call it STEM Teach. It was started at the University of Texas at Austin, and the idea is we need more highly qualified math and science teachers. So what the program is designed for is for people who, instead of being an education major, you can be a physics major or math major or a biology major, and also get your teaching certification at the same time. So it's a little different than an education degree is, but it's a more focused program. And I had several of those students help me work on these projects to help the kids out. So it benefited our future teachers also. So they were able to help. I had a student named Skipper Thurman actually help me with the Earth Cache project because he is actually from state parks called Mountain View State Park, which is where Blanchard Springs Caverns is. And it's a national, it's part of the National Forest System, but it's one of the bigger show caves in the U.S. It's not as big as Carlsbad Caverns, but it's a nice sized show cavern here in the state, because we live in a region, the northern part of the state, there's thousands of caves in the northern part of the state and in southern Missouri because of the limestone karst, because we were under that ancient seafloor. So there's a lot of really cool caverns up here, and Blanchard Springs it was one of our places that he wrote about also. So he was able to talk about some of the unique geology of the animals that live in caves that are sightless because they don't need to be able to see.
Exactly.
So, and there's actually been a couple of species of salamander discovered there that are not anywhere else in the world too. So it gives these kids a sense of, because, you know, Arkansas, we're not really known for being #1 in education. I mean, we make the joke is that we're really glad there's Mississippi, or we would be last in everything.
Ouch.
Sorry if anybody's from Mississippi, but you know, that's, and I'm sure they have the same joke about us.
Yeah.
But these kids, you know, they aren't necessarily told what the value of education is, or what the value of, you know, lifelong learning about your state, continuing to be fascinated and in awe and wanting to discover after you finish school. And see, I think geocaching is the perfect vehicle for that, because it's always about the next discovery. It's always about where can it take you. I mean, lampposts and stop signs and all that aside, you know, the things that we live for are those really cool caches, either because of where they're at, or how they're put together, or where they take you, you know, or the challenge of solving that puzzle. And so geocaching is that perfect vehicle for that lifelong learning, to kind of enculturate you into being a lifelong learner. So that's my subversive agenda with these kids, is to get them to be lifelong learners. And if they become geocachers, then they will be.
Yes. And, you know, I know Daryl's done it. I've done it. I've used geocaching as a tour guide.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, hey, let's go here. I didn't know this was here. I've done that in my very own town. I did not know there was a park a quarter mile from me. Never noticed it before.
That too.
Well, and even the lamp skirt hides can show you stuff. Like how many times have you gone into a big box store parking lot and realized, wow, there's like 100 lamps here?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that is true. And I suppose from a city planning perspective, that is really true.
Well, I was actually meaning to say something about the cool hides that you'll find where it's like a scenic overlook or something that you really can't put a cache anywhere except for those lamp skirts. And things like the parks where you can't put, you know, it's like a big green space with maybe a bench or two, but nothing that you can really hide a cache.
Really hide anything.
Hide it in a lamp skirt, so you still get to discover cool places that way.
That place. And in fact, just today, I was down at the school this morning because we're working on this year's project. So I was down there this morning, and one of the aspects of our project is the kids are having to research the Civilian Conservation Corps. And we put 2 grades together this year, so we've got a bigger group than we've had in past years. I said, how many of you have heard of the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps? Hand went up, and I was like, oh my goodness, oh, you need to understand what the purpose of this was. And so we actually, now that you mention that, there is a scenic overlook about 20 miles north of us on a pretty well-known scenic highway that heads up toward Branson. There's a scenic overlook up there called Rotary Ann. And look is there, and there's an earth cache, a multi-cache, and a puzzle cache all hidden at that overlook, because it's a pretty big, you know, it's pretty spread out. And I told my students, I said, okay, the next time you go, because there's some popular camping areas and stuff up there. I said, the next time you go up there to go camping, I want you to stop and I want you to read that sign. That is the very first rest area that was ever built in the state of Arkansas. It was built when the highway that it was on was still dirt. Was still dirt. And I said, you know, I learned why it was called Rotary Ann. I learned, you know, about the building of this highway. I learned, you know, various things. But I said, take that knowledge and think about 10 miles to the east of there in a wilderness area. There is a virtual cache. It's one of the older virtual caches in the state at an old CCC camp. This camp's not on any map. It's not on any documentation that I could find recording its location. But you're walking on the Ozark Highland Trail along Richland Creek, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world, in my opinion. But anyway, you're walking along this trail, and all of a sudden you come into what's this ghost town of rock buildings. Most of them have fallen down, but you can see the shower house. You can see the dormitories that they lived in. The foundations are still there. And then there's this huge, intact, perfectly preserved fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the CCC camp for that region. And they are, there were 100 young men that used to live there. The forest has reclaimed it now, but there were 100 young men that used to live there from all over the United States that built Rotary Inn and built the Civic Center in our town and, various buildings. And I said, you guys, their memory is kept alive because of the geocachers. There's no reason to even know that that was there, because if you're not really looking for it, the forest has kind of reclaimed it to the point that you wouldn't see it if you were just walking through there casually. So it's pretty amazing. I said, we need to preserve that history. So you guys' homework is to research the CCC this week. But we just did that today. So
nice. Just at the beginning, first day of the year, Washington State Parks opened up several, all the state parks were free for a hike. Several of them had local docents to go with you. And I didn't know. I would have walked through and never have noticed that this was a CCC camp. And again, it had that large stone fireplace. And they had several pictures of the rangers and the men that worked to produce, the walls around and all the different things in the area. And I was like, I'm so glad that I did that and learned.
Yeah. And so, this year's project, since I've been talking about it a little bit, what we're doing this year is a little different. I got this idea from, I mentioned this to Daryl the other night. There's a university called Oklahoma State University, and they have a trail, and you get a passport, and it's got different locations. And the idea is it's to get you walking. If you walk the entire trail, you walk a 2-mile, so the whole 10,000 steps thing, to get everybody up and moving, you have to follow these clues around, and there's GPS coordinates for all of them. And you follow the clues around, and you have to answer a question, and it's not something you can Google. It's like, what's stamped in the 4th stone on the 5th step, or what's the 3rd name on the plaque inside the door on the left, or something like that. Then if you complete the passport, at the same time, you can get information for a multi-cache. And if you complete the passport and go to the student center and turn it in, you get a path tag. You get a Pistol Pete. That's their mascot, is Pistol Pete. You get a Pistol Pete path tag. I went, I think we could pull this off. So this year's project, the Arkansas Historical Commission had a lady come and do us a historic Adkins tour. And we walked around, and she told us the history of all the buildings and everything. I said, I think we can take her information and we can create a walking trail and do exactly the same thing that they've done. Except maybe not make it a multi-cache, but make it one where you have to, go to several, and I guess it is a multi-cache because you have to go to several waypoints and get some information, and then hide just one really nice cache somewhere. And then the kids are designing. We're having a little design contest. They have to design a path tag. So we're working on that. So what the kids are doing is they picked out the locations. They're having to research them. They're having to figure out the best way to organize the walk so that people can park in a safe location and walk in a safe location. And then we're going to work with a couple of the businesses in town. And so I'm making the kids write the letters and explain what we're doing. And would you please be a passport location for us? So we're working on all that. And when we're done, then we'll have about a 2-mile walk through town that people can take and learn about Adkins, get a geocache and get a path tag, and get a nice 2-mile walk under their belts.
I love that idea.
Yeah. So
that does sound like a lot of fun, but I'm getting a little worried about the dog banging on the door over there.
Yeah.
It doesn't it kind of sound like he's actually going to break through soon?
He might.
I'll
He's
be right
determined.
back.
I'll give him that.
Yeah. While she's gone, we'll do the quick announcement that Patron Hangout is on the 24th. That's just a few days away. Depending on when you listen to it, it might even be past. But if you are a patron, make sure to check your email, and if you have that set up, and it will be posted on the Patron feed so that you can join us on the 24th at 9 p.m.
Wait, I'm going to be late if I join at 9 p.m.
Yes, you are. So 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Sorry, I had to do that to you, Daryl.
Chris. No, I appreciate it. This is what happens when I get too sleepy and don't fill in the notes entirely.
Nice. Deborah?
Okay. Yes.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Ready. Willie's ready. Did you have a question?
I have a question for Willie. No.
Okay.
Is he named
Willie,
after
you
the
have a
Jeep?
question? No, that's actually the name that he was given at the pound.
Okay.
He is one of the dogs that I rescued from the pound. I saw his little sad face, and I went and got him the morning he was scheduled to be euthanized.
Oh, he doesn't look so
rotten is what he is, but yes.
And obviously the town was named after the doctor that came up with that diet plan, right?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
There were some people with the last name Adkins, but I think they kind of predated the guy that said, was he the one that said eat lots of meat, or is he not eat lots of meat? I get them confused.
Yeah, no carb, high protein. I believe
we like him because I raise beef cattle. So hey, yay, go Atkins diet. So, but this program, the nice thing about it is it has given me the opportunity to communicate with other teachers. In 2011, I took this idea and worked with our STEM center, which is, we have 12 of these around the state located at universities, and they provide resources for teachers, of K-12 teachers for science and math, both physical resources and professional development. Our director, she said, hey, there's a request for proposal for a grant program through the Library of Congress. It's about using primary sources and getting teachers to use primary resources of the Library of Congress in their classroom. She said, do you have any ideas? And I said, I have a doozy. I have got a dandy idea. So we took the idea of the first project that we did and folded it into this grant, and we were awarded one of only 10 grants, and we were by far the smallest one. We were awarded the grant, and we were able to bring 25 teachers onto campus and teach a graduate course and give them some tools to use to develop something, not necessarily exactly what we did, but kind of give them the knowledge of this tool that's out there that you can utilize. And because we had every age range from kindergarten to seniors in high school as far as the teachers went. So I know that one teacher really took this and ran with it and developed a series of historic caches in his town, because his town was very active and involved in the Civil War. So he has a lot of interesting caches now placed in his town because he took that class. We were able to take, and I was really excited about this, we were selected to be one of the best practices programs for this grant, and we were brought to, we actually got to go to Northwestern University in Evanston, or Chicago, but on Lake Michigan is what I remember because I did some geocaching. Got to go up there, and I was very excited because the director from the Library of Congress, who was the director of the grant program, made a special point of coming to our presentation because she said it just sounded so unique and interesting. So I was really tickled about that.
Nice.
Yeah.
It is good to be recognized, isn't it?
Makes me feel really good. And you know, and the nice thing is outreach in the academy, in academia, sometimes is not given as much credence as, say, scholarly research, doing, you know, research in your discipline. And to me, each is a privilege of having the job that I have, but it also, in the end, pays dividends, because if we have more engaged teachers and more engaged students at the K-12 level, then when they get to us, then they'll be more engaged when they get to us. And so I've been a sort of a champion of doing all kinds of outreach, not just with the geocaching, but doing outreach in general. And I'm up for promotion to full professor this year. And the crown jewel of my promotion application was outreach and service to education. And was right. I'm on track to become the first woman full professor in the physics department this year.
That's impressive.
So I'm excited. I feel really good. And the service component of my application was sort of what I, made the centerpiece. So, and the thing is even if you're not a college professor, schools are hungry for people who are engaged with students to come in and work with students. And I'm not saying you have to, devote your life to it for 7 years like I have, but I promise you, if you approach a teacher and say, hey, I would really like to come and work with your students on geocaching and talk to him about this, I promise you they would jump at the chance to have you come in there and do that, because anything that they can do to bring technology and science and things of that nature into the classroom, they're all about doing that. And, I'm not going to get on my soapbox about education needing to be better funded, but it needs to be better funded. And the teachers need the help. And so I promise you, they would relish the opportunity to work with you, and it pays back to you are overwhelming. I mean, I have gotten better at what I do because I see these kids looking up to me as a role model to them. I didn't go last Thursday. Of them accost me on Friday. One at the pizza place. One made her mom follow me home, pull up in the driveway behind me and get out and go, why weren't you there yesterday? You make an impact. Whether you think of it or not, you're making an impact in the lives of these young people. And we desperately need more positive impacts in their lives. So I'm going to get on my soapbox about that and say, get out there and offer to help.
Well, Doc Firewoman, I don't think you could have ended on a better note. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your love of education. And not only education, but geocaching and education. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me. I enjoy being on y'all's show, so I appreciate. And I love to listen every week, so I'm honored to be one of the voices for geocaching.
Well, if you happen to be listening next week, we're going to be doing a randomized show, and that one's with Shermanator 18.
Yay, Sydney. All right.
Yeah. The week after that is a road caching. This happens to be our 10th road caching show. We love these road caching shows. And that's with Memphis Mafia. On February 9th, we're doing mega giga events with Heather Feather, a community volunteer support team. February 16th, we're doing another randomized live. See, I like to pronounce the Roman numerals when you can do it, with Dano of Team Pugach.
Is that like Liv Tyler?
Check the Cache Maniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads at cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cache Maniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through a link on our website to support the Cache Maniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2017 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.
Cache with the Cache Maniacs.